Hello, everyone. It's 5:30 now, and I think we can start our session for today. So, welcome everyone for joining our web launch series 2020 for CSS. So, just a little bit introduction about the Sunway Tech Club again. So essentially, we are a student-run organizations that trying to bridge the gap between tech education and tech industry, because we do realize that there are some of the graduates that graduate from the university doesn't actually like own the skills that let them survive in the industry itself. So here we are to try to bridge the gap by delivering all the contents, workshops, and even tech meetup as how we can like build up the student communities. So before we actually jump into the CSS sessions today, going to talk a bit like just a recap of what web development is, right? So we even have like make out a simple YouTube videos to talk about and explain about this in a more visualized and better ways. So you can go and check out our YouTube channels, Summer Tech Club, and there will be like a web launch videos out there. But essentially, right, we can broken down the web development into two sections: front end and back end. Front end is what you can see, what you can interact in. Back end is what you cannot see, and essentially like all the like server stuff, and then like how to handle all the data that the user send it to the server. So we do receive some of the feedbacks from the last sessions that talk about like requesting for the backend resources and materials to and content like that. So we do considering that, and probably if we have the extra manpower and extra efforts, we can go on. We talk about backend in probably we can have host another workshops to talk about backend, like how can you integrate fully for HTML, CSS, JavaScript with the backend, right? But for today's sessions, we're going to talk about CSS specifically. So we talk about like the front end. Basically is a building and house. You have your HTML as your bricks, the structure of the websites, and then CSS in today is going to focus on the painting part. So which is like designing and layouting and making all the cool effects. This all can be done in CSS. So and then we have the JavaScript that is essentially adding the behavior of like switches, lights to your website. So in this particularly this workshop, we're going to talk about CSS and how you can style your website and make it become fancier. So in this session, we have two speakers. One is Bernard, another one is Nick. So Bernard on the left hand side is the SCC's competitive jokers, and he's also like just graduated from the accounting and finance degree. So unofficially graduate because they still need to like go on for industry placement thingy, right?
No, I've been waiting for the sun.
Yeah, waiting for the certs. All right. So and then we have Nick, SCC's Summer Tech Club president, also studying like software engineering degree second years. So I wouldn't want to take so much time from them. So yeah. So but it's session now.
Yo, hello. Okay, so for a start, right, I think everyone has the first been sent. Has this slide been sent?
You can send it to them in the chat right now.
Yeah, I think I'll send this. I'll share this slide here, and then you guys can get the link to download the lesson files on GitHub. Once you're there, right, you see this page right here. Then after that, just click this code button right here and download zip. And then you can go ahead and extract it. When you extract it out, you get this file right here, this folder right here, and all the lesson files for the first half. So I'll give about 2 minutes for everyone to actually download the file and get started. Oh, okay. Okay. Speak louder. Okay, cool. Okay. Book. Okay. Cool. Okay. So if you guys have actually done with the extraction, you can give it send some feedback around in the chat and see if so that maybe you can proceed. Give another 1 minute. And I'm sure like everyone has also installed like Visual Studio Code. So if you go ahead and just launch Visual Studio Code, you go to File, Open Folder, and then you find the folder that you that you extracted. Select that, and then you can select the theory part. I think. Sorry, open folder, click this, and then the theory part first. Select folder. Really? Okay. Okay, cool. Okay, so what you guys have to do is like open go file, open folder, and then click theory, and select the theory for go navigate to the extracted folder that you created, and then click the theory folder and select folder, and then that should be it. One last thing also, you can actually go ahead and go to the folder right here, click the theory folder again, and then click this index.html to view like the HTML file that we're going to decorate with CSS.
So what's next?
Okay, I think everyone should be. Hope everyone is actually okay with it.
Yeah, it's okay.
It's okay.
No worries about that. If you couldn't catch up, you can always watch back the recording.
Yep, exactly. Okay, so we proceed to introducing CSS. So actually, why do we actually have to use CSS? Okay, if you think about that, just now, Rain was talking about like CSS is painting like the HTML file. So you can think that CSS actually gives like the visual appeal to a plain HTML file. And then I honestly like I don't really like I go straight to the point about it. If you have without CSS, like websites actually look like shit, So this is Google, Google's website without CSS and with CSS. There's a huge difference. You can see. Okay, so with that in mind, right, there's actually 3 ways for you to add CSS. So the first way, right, it's called the inline style format. So this is kind of the format of adding CSS properties and values to your HTML text. You start off with a tag, you open a style attribute equals with a double inverted comma, and then property, and specify your property and value. So we can go ahead and actually go to drop into the code here, right here, and then you open up your index.html file in VS Code. And then what we want to do right now, right, is to actually style the h1 tag. By default, the h1 tag looks like this. You open your index.html file, this is the h1 tag. This WhatsApp world thing. Okay, you see. By default, it looks quite plain now, and then this is a Times New Roman font, and then it's this large, this big, and the color is black. So when you want to style it, right, you can, by using inline style, you go to your h1 tag right here. See this, the h1 WhatsApp world tag. Space type style to specify the CSS style attribute in the HTML tag. Open it up with double inverted comma, and then this time actually I think we can try to put like the color. So first we specify a color property, and then maybe when you try to put some quite obvious color like red. So your property is color, a colon, to specify the separator between the property and the value, and then the value is going to be red. Just type red.
Right, don't forget
and you close. You always remember that you have to close your values with the semicolon right here. If you've done that, this is your first. It's going to be your first CSS styling, the first CSS styling you've ever done. So you go ahead, click Control S to save, or you can save right here like this. And then if you go to your index.html file right here, right, you click refresh, you can see the H1 tag is now red color. So congratulations, you have actually successfully applied CSS styling to one of your HTML tags. But then I wanted to actually put even more styling to the tag. So if you have the slides open, right, you can actually go ahead and just copy this. Go to the practice site right here and just copy that. Okay, just click the button copy. Go back to your Visual Studio Code right here, and then you can go and just replace this whole thing now. Just highlight that and Control V, and then you Control S to save. To apply the changes, and then when you refresh your index.html file, right, you see like yeah, now the H1 tag is actually really big right now. We have like it's gray color. It's like light slate gray. It's one of the colors that we can specify in CSS. The font is now Arial instead of like a boring old Times New Roman. And the weight, we can make it like the weight actually is like the thickness of the font. And now the size is really big at like 150 pixels. You see, 150 px. So yeah, there's one way to actually apply CSS to a HTML tag, the inline style format. So this is actually very convenient if you want to implement like a small fix. Like for example, you want to apply CSS properties or values to like only one H1 tag, one HTML tag. I mean, for example, one HTML tag. But what if you actually want to apply like these kind of properties to like multiple elements? Like you see, instead of this, right, we want to apply to like maybe all these p tags right here. I want to apply like some color and sizing to all these p tags right here. Maybe all these span tags right here. So that's where the con of the inline style is, because it actually will clutter up your HTML file. It may make it, see, now you can't even see like you're actually mixing up CSS into the HTML file. It doesn't look very neat at all. You can't even see like you can't even see like the content of the HTML tag now. So what you can actually do, right, is the second style. And the second style is actually called the embedded style. Embedded style is a much more neater way compared to the previous one, which is inline style. So it goes with this format right here. Head, your head tag, right? Remember in your HTML lesson, there's the head tag right here. Right? You have to open like a style tag and close a style tag. So you just have to apply a style tag. And then this is, you apply and then after that, inside your style tag, right, you type a selector. So the selector can be, in this case, like, I want to put P. It can be your HTML tag. For now, we think about it as you put your HTML tag. So in the practice, right, I'm going to show you, we're going to apply the properties and value to the properties value to the P tag, and we assign P tag as a selector for the style. Okay. And then once again, you in your tag, right, you follow it up with open curly brace, type your properties and value. Same thing, just like right here, property and value. And then you close it with a semicolon, and then after that, close it with your curly brace. Yeah. So if everyone's familiar, we can just go ahead to open up your Visual Studio Code right here, and then actually in your head tag, you find the head tag. Go press enter. Just ignore this for now. This is going to be the next styling way that we apply CSS. So you click enter, and then in your head tag, specify the style tag, and close it and you automatically have they have you close already. Okay, in VS Code. And then once you're there, you just enter to make it look neat, and then you specify the selector as P. This one's referring to the P tag. Open type your curly braces, press enter to make it more neater again, and then now we're going to change the font size of all these P tags right here, okay, and maybe this P tag also right here. So what you do is you specify your font size as a property, put your colon, space, and then put your value, which is 25px, which is what we want. Go ahead, Control S, save. This is how you do it. You just, once again, I repeat, open a style tag, and in your style tag, you put your selector, which in this case, our selector, we want to put as P. You open your curly brace, and you put properties, colon, and then your value, and then your semicolon. And then go ahead and refresh your index.html file. See that all the P tags, they actually increase in size. See, because we specified like a bigger font size for each P tag. So one good thing that actually this compared to the previous style, right, is once again is if you put all your CSS style starting right here, right, instead of mixing them up with all the text in your body, right, it actually looks more neater. See, I don't have to open like individual text right here. I don't have to go style. It looks very messy if you use the inline way. See, style font size 25px. See, it looks very messy if you do that. And then one other benefit, right, is that actually when you type once, right, it applies to like all the p text right here. See, if you rely on the inline style, right, you just have to go and keep adding one by one like that. See, it's very tedious. It's not efficient at all. It's really it's quite a pain in the ass. Yes. I go here and undo that. It looks very messy. The inline style method is actually pretty messy if you compare it to this second method right here, which you apply once, and you can use. It applies all the one change to all the text that you want to have a change to. There goes to the p tag. This is the embedded styling method. And then the best one. Okay, arguably this is a better one because like based on best web development practices, right? We want to actually separate like this HTML file from. We want to maintain only HTML in a HTML file. We don't want to put CSS in a HTML file, or maybe JavaScript in the method. Because when you're going to learn JavaScript, you can actually add JavaScript into the HTML file, but we also want to separate it. So best development practice, right, is we want to separate the file, separate all languages from one another. It makes it more efficient when you're going to move out to more advanced projects in the future. So what you can do is you can go ahead and the format, right? The format to do this is you have an index.html file, and then you also have a styles.css file. So normally it goes like this: you in your head tag, right? You open a link tag, type this rel attribute, and then this is all template, so you just can copy and paste this anyway. Relationship style sheet type equals text. You know what? I think we try to type it out instead of like me just explaining that. So what in the head tag, right? Open a link tag. Link equals relationship equals inverted comma style sheet. And then type equals text /CSS. And then now you go to you have this href attribute. I think it's been covered in the previous HTML lesson. What href is? So href is actually linking to something. So now where's our styles.css file? If you notice, right, in the theory folder, right, we also have a CSS folder right here, and then the styles.css folder is inside the CSS folder. So if you want the HTML file to actually know where to look, where to search for this styles.css file, right, you specify the folder, which is CSS, and then slash, and then you type styles.css, because the styles.css file is inside the CSS folder. So the styles.css file, you can actually go and I did that for you already. You don't have to actually worry too much about that because I helped to help. Oops, actually I think I did wrong here. Yeah, correction. Right. Yeah, something like that, and then styles.css file. You can actually create the styles.css file by yourself. You just in VS Code, right, you just go file, new file, then file, save as, and then we normally open like a CSS folder. I just keep it neat now. Save all the CSS files inside one folder. So you can go ahead and maybe Control Shift N and then press CSS. They ask you like maybe you want to merge the files, the folder together for yes. And then you can go to CSS and then type create a styles.css file and save. And then this is how you actually create a styles.css file. It's an empty one. And then since we actually specify like in the HTML document, the head tag, right? Specify where to find, how to link to this styles.css file. This HTML function actually read the attributes that you specify in the styles.css file. So what I want to do, right? What I want to do right now is to apply the properties and values in the styles.css file. So in this case, I want to actually make like background here, maybe like a Facebook blue. You know. Facebook blue is wait, we get to it later. Okay. What you go do, right? You can apply the color, right? A background color to this entire document. And what you can do is you apply it to the body tag. You know. So what you can do in your stars.css file, type body, space, curly braces, press enter, and background dash color. Make sure when you type background dash color, right, the color is COLOR. It's not COLUR. And then actually, instead of actually typing like blue or what, right? This kind of blue is not really like the Facebook blue that we want, right? This is like a really darker blue. Doesn't look that nice. What you can do in CSS, you can actually, for colors, right, you can actually use hexadecimal codes. So if you're unfamiliar, it starts with actually a hashtag and then two letters and four numbers. In this case, the Facebook blue code is going to be hashtag 3 small letter b, smaller case b, 5998. And then when you're done with the value, always remember you close it with your semicolon. Then when you're done typing that, you go ahead, Control S to save the thing, or file, save as, save the thing. Or save the file, save. Yeah. And then make sure you have this save also, you know, when you type the link tag, so that the HTML file knows where to search for the stores or CSS tag, CSS file, sorry. And then when you go to your index.html file, go refresh it, refresh. And now you see like all the entire document is like the Facebook blue right now. So yeah, this is how you apply CSS through the external style format. So now we move on to like this second method concept in CSS, classes and IDs. So one thing what if you actually want to apply like the same CSS property and values to like a group of elements? For example, we have a group of elements right here. See, red, 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 and yellow, yellow, and white here. You see. What if I actually want to apply like the red font to only this text with red content, the red text content, and yellow fonts to this text with yellow text content. If we did just now, remember our style tag right here, right? You can go ahead and just delete this stuff for now. Then maybe you can get rid of like this inline style tag for the WhatsApp world thing. Try to get rid of it. That's quite distracting. Save. And then if you remember our selectors, right? Just now we specify a p tag. Okay, I'll go back again now. We specify the p tag as the selector. We don't have to actually specify just HTML tag for that. We can actually specify like our class, we can create a class and then apply just that class to specific HTML tags. So what do I mean is this, you can go ahead to your, to find the p text with the red text right here, right? You can go ahead and insert a class attribute equals and then specify the name of the class. So in this case, I'll specify it as red, capital letter T, and then ext. So it's red text. So you can go ahead and copy this and apply it to like every tag right here. When you're done with that, you can go ahead, Control S to save the index.html file to commit like the changes. And then in your stars.css tag, right, I think you can keep this for now. Just go ahead and press enter to make it look neat. And then instead of typing like P and then your curly brace and then enter and then put color with O no UR and red. To do this, right, we actually will apply color red, right, to all your p text here. And this is not what we want, because we want to apply like the red color to only like these 3 text right here. So instead of like specifying for all p text, right, you specify the class. So what the class, right, actually is this format. You start with a dot and then your class name. So in your stars.css, remove that p selector right here. Now your selector is going to be a class. So the class is red text. So you start with a dot. Dot starts a class. Dot red, capital letter T, ext. Red text. And Control S to save. And then if you we remember to Control S the index.html file, and go ahead and refresh your index.html file in the browser, right? You see like all the text, right, that we have for red is actually applied red color. It's not applied to all the yellow ones or the white ones, even though it's a p tag, because we specify like a specific class for it. So one good thing is actually now you have more like control over the text, or applying like what kind of CSS styling to a certain group of elements. You can go ahead and actually apply like see also for the practical, I also added like a yellow text class. You can go ahead and copy this, and then also and paste it inside your stars.css file. And press to save. And go to index.html. For the yellow ones, you can type class equals yellow text. Same thing for the second one. Then after you press Ctrl S to save, and when you refresh the index.html file, see the yellow color is actually being applied to the yellow text. So pretty neat. You can you write once, and then once again you write once, and then you can apply the same styling to like multiple texts. And it doesn't have to be restricted to maybe only the p tag. You can have different styling for different p tags. In this case, because we open a class, so it's a group of HTML elements right now. Okay, so now if we are done, if we can follow that, we go to look at another concept which is called IDs. So for IDs, right, it's actually used to when you want to apply like CSS property and values to like only one HTML element, a unique one in this regard. If you spot in our index.html file right here, you see there's only like out of the color the text that have the color kind of content, right? We have like a white, something called we have a white content right here. In this case, right, it's unique, right? Because it's only tag right here that is white. There has the string white. So we can this is a good candidate for applying like ID tag. So what you can do, go to your VS Code, find the p tag that has the white the content called white. You add the ID now. Sorry, not class. ID equals double inverted comma and then white capital T ext. Okay. Then when you're done with that, you can go ahead Control S to save. You go to your stars.css file right here. Now, when you want to apply like when you want to specify like a ID, right? The properties and values for ID, right? You start with hashtag right now. Instead of a dot. Dot is for the class. Hashtag is for the ID. We start with a hashtag. Sorry, hashtag white capital T ext space open curly brace. Press enter, and then now put the color as. You go ahead. Remember to put this always when you're ending like any value, right? Any property and value, CSS property and value. Remember to end your property with, your value with this semicolon. Go ahead. When you're done with this, Control S to save. Make sure your index.html file is also saved when you apply the ID white equals white texting right here. Good. So you can go ahead to your index.html file right here and then you refresh it. You can see like the white text is being applied like white color already. So this is how you actually like be more versatile in applying your CSS properties and values. If it's like a group of elements, you use classes. If it's like there's only one HTML element that you want some changes to, you use IDs. So okay, we'll move on to the next concept. It's going to be like the CSS box model concept right here. Okay, the CSS box model concept. Okay, imagine right for CSS for HTML element, HTML element, right? We have content, and then padding. This content can be anything like it can be. Oh, this is like a text. You see, like what's up world. This is a content. Red is a content, or maybe like an emoji like this one right here is a content. Content, you can actually apply like a border outside the content. Like instead of like it being just a content right here, you can put a border around it, and then the border, right? There's also space between the border and the content. So the space, right, is actually called padding, and then the space, right, outside the border. So space outside the border is called margin. So what you can actually we go move on to like the get more practical about it now, and so that everyone can understand it better. Go ahead to your stars.css file, and then you create like a border class right now. See, so dot border. Then what you can do is, I think if you have the slides, I think it's better just copy and paste this stuff. Copy and paste, copy that, and then paste it here. What I did, right, is what I specify border style property, make it solid instead of like dotted lines, dotted border. Then the border width, I apply like the different width lah. So this one it goes with clockwise position, so top right, bottom left. Top right, bottom left, okay? I specify like maybe the top one I want a thicker border, the right one a thinner one, and then the bottom one even thinner, and then left one thinner. And the border color I want it to be white. So when you created the border class already, you go hit Control S to save. Then you go to your HTML, index.html file right here. You can apply like the border to anywhere. Like for example, maybe you want to apply the border to this red text, the first red text over here. Go ahead, press type space, and then type border inside your class attribute. See, this is how you can actually apply like multiple classes to one element. Then the element can actually have two different, can have actually properties and values from two different classes that you specified. So it's once again inside the class tag, you red text space and then border to apply the border class. Control S to save your index.html file. Then you go to your index.html document right here in your browser. You refresh, and now you see like the border is actually applied right here. See, borders applied. So padding, once again, like padding is the space between the text and the border. So to illustrate this better, right, you can go ahead and apply, create like a padding class again. So instead of like typing it from scratch, I just go ahead and click copy, go to the stars.css file, and then paste, and then Control S to create the padding class. And then padding, I think you can go and apply it the same thing to the first red tag right here. Once again, in your class attribute space, add impact padding, and Control S to save to apply the changes. Now this tag right is actually going to have the properties and values from three different classes that you specify in the stars.css file. Right, the red text class, the border class, and the padding class. Control S to save. Then when you refresh the index.html file, you see now the space between the content is the content and the border has actually increased because we specify like more. We gave it like some padding, like extra padding in percentage form. This is one of like the CSS unit measurements. You can go and experiment by yourself, like percentage. There's things like EM also. Go ahead and show you guys that. Ah. I think this. Never mind about that. Skip it to that percentage first. Yeah, but you can have percentage or you can have like pixels. There's many different types of like CSS measurements that you can apply to as well. So I think pretty self-explanatory when I'm talking about the margin class right now. Margin, which is the space outside the border. So in the slides, I also help everyone to actually declare like a margin class. You can go ahead and copy that. Click this button, copy. Go to your stars.css file. Press enter, and then paste. Then Control S. You see, and then now you're declaring like the margin class. Go back to your index.html file, and then for that tag right there, we specify the three classes. We specify another class margin. Control S to save. Then when you refresh the index.html file, you see there's now we added more space outside the border, of the element. So that's called the margin. This is margin and margin that actually help you to sort of position the elements into the way you want. Like maybe you want to have like the element to be inside even more. Right? This is the top right, the bottom, and then the left. You add more margin to the left. The left one is going to be this. Maybe a really big wedding, 500. Refresh. So margin can have you actually position your elements more in a more flexible way. So I think we've done with that. There's also like display properties right here. Is it too long? Display properties right here, right? You remember, yes, in the HTML session a few days ago, you probably remember like inline elements and then block elements. So these are the elements that are by default inline, the span A and the image and the strong. And these are the elements that are by default block. What do I mean by inline and block, right? Okay, we start with inline first. Like inline element, right? This is the definition. It does not start on a new line, and then it occupies just the width it requires. And one condition is that you cannot actually set the width and height values for the inline element. So to visualize it better, right, it's like this. You just look at this diagram right here. Inline is this is an inline element. It does not start a new line. So because when you specify another inline element in your HTML tag, HTML document, the inline element actually goes goes to the side of it until when the whole, like for example, this whole browser page right here is filled up with elements. Only then that the inline element will go down on a new line. Otherwise, it will just stretch across the whole browser until your whole browser is actually filled with elements. So by default, the p tags are actually, like if you see here, right, the p tags are actually block elements. Like CSS, right, we can actually make the HTML text to be more flexible. We can have p tags that are actually inline elements. Instead of block, make it inline. So you can go ahead and copy this inline class right here. It's not inline class. I specified a display property and then the inline value. And just copy that. And then you go to your stars.css file right here and paste the inline class item. Control S to save the stars.css. Always remember the Control S, okay? If not, you won't see the changes. And then I think I can apply it to. I think this one's preloaded already. We better apply it to this one right here, maybe this one, the third red text. Right here. So the class is inline. We're done with that. We Control S to save the index.html file. And we refresh. It's not showing now. Oh, sorry guys. I think this is the way lah. I didn't show the effect because you have to specify you also have to make the p tag before the inline class before the other p tag that you apply inline class also inline. Now you won't see the effect. So now instead of I applied to the yellow text right here, right? The inline class to these two yellow class text right here. And then when I hit refresh, right? Before that, you see the yellow was stacking one another because there's block element. Now when I make both of it inline, right? It's now side by side. See yellow and then yellow next to each other. So this is how we make the HTML tag be more flexible when we look at it. The same thing as block. So block is the opposite of inline. It starts on a new line and it occupies the full width available. So very obvious, you see this p tag right here. It occupies the entire width right here. Then the next p tag will actually
Sometimes you
follow
can use inspect to kind of just show what is going on. So usually we could always right click and go into inspect. And what we can do is actually we can click on this tool right here, and just point at any elements that we have on the web page. So if you point on this, and you can see this blue color box that is extending the whole viewport itself, the width. So this is technically sometimes it usually means it's a block. So as you can see, display block. So if we point at this, you can see like the blue box doesn't extend over the whole width, but instead it just kind of stays as itself. So if we click on this, and you can see like the display block, it's been removed and changed into inline. So yeah, I think it's better.
Yeah.
when you
You can visualize like you can use the inspect element thing to look at the CSS box model in like more visual view. See, this is the content, this is the margin, this is the border, and then this outside here, this thing outside here is the margin, the margin that I explained just now. Because now we have a border, right, you can see like it's more obvious. This whole thing is a block element because it occupies the entire viewport of the whole HTML file. Then, okay, now the span tags by default, the span tag, right? They are not they're not block elements. They're inline elements. What the span tags are? We have a couple of span tags here with this high tags right here, right? They're span tags, and then even though we specify like one by one here, right, they actually they don't stack. They go like they don't start a new line each. They actually are being added to the side towards the right. So what if we want to make it like make the span tag look like a p tag, which is a block element? We can go ahead, go to your slides again. I think you can copy in this slide, copy paste this thing, this class, this block class right here. Copy that, and press enter. Styles.css file. Control V to paste and Control S to save. To create a block class, and then after that, your span tag, right, you can specify the class attribute equals double equal corner and block. And you can go ahead and do this for every span element. Specify like a block class for it. And then press Ctrl S to save the index.html file. Always remember to press Ctrl S, else maybe you might not see the changes you want. So when you go to index.html file in your browser, Ctrl R to refresh. And now you see the high text right here. They all became a block element right now. Okay. So yeah, this is how you change the property of it. So I think there's a more advanced concept right here called inline block. So inline block is actually it has two properties of inline and block elements. So for inline block element, it has the inline property of not starting a new line, and a block property of being able to, you can actually now set the width and height values for the element. I think I'll leave these to you guys to actually discover by yourselves, because it's I think you can probably, it's the same concept again. You create a inline block class, or maybe apply this display property and inline block value to a specific class that you want to apply this this CSS attributes to. Same thing, and then you go to your class here, and then you type the class that has this display property and inline block value. Okay, so I think it's about done there. I commonly use CSS so we have text fonts. I think we've looked at a couple of it. You can go ahead and maybe try them out by yourself. You know, just try typing the properties and values out in the styles.css file, and then apply the class. You can create your own class as well. You create your own class.
Later that one will cover in the project. So
yeah, and then
can move on now first.
Move on now. Okay. So I think we'll move on to like a really small practical session. We can actually can look to build this right here. So what you can do,
Actually,
you can.
do we even have the time?
I think no, right?
If we don't have the time, then we can move on to my part.
Yeah, I think so.
Quite quickly.
Yeah, I think you can try this out by yourself. Okay.
Yeah, we'll move on.
We move on to pass the time to our president Nick to continue this with this session right here.
So, yep. Actually, we are behind schedule. So, hey guys, sorry for that. And can you see me? Am I too short over here because I'm using a different chair? Yeah. If there's no problem, then we can continue with this. So actually, right now, we would like to move on to rather more like a practical session instead of just theory. So we will try to apply all of the stuff that Bernard just explained, and maybe just see how it works, man. Like in real world. So right now, I'm just gonna request you to just go to this page. Let me just give it a find. See. Yep, found it. Right, I'm just gonna give this link to you all. Right, just click onto it and it should bring you to this repo. And what we want to do is actually we're just looking for this to-dos, right? So go click onto it and click into the index.html. So these are the things that actually the last session, the HTML session, they have passed down this file to us and asked us to create something like this. So give me a second, just open it up. Oopsie. Oopsie. Okay, found it. Right, so we were asked to make something like this. If it would load, come on. But yeah, let's just zoom in first. Oh yeah, now it's working. Right, sorry about that. So we were asked to make something like this. So right now, what am I going to do is actually just go on to Visual Studio Code. So we're going to start off new, and we're going to start off with a new folder. So what I'm going to do is actually just open a folder and go to desktop. So create something like folder, let's say like CSS workshop, which I already created in advance. So click onto that, and yep, so we are starting off in a new file. And what we're going to do here is actually just create a new file, right? Quite straightforward. So index.html. And what I'm going to do is actually just inherit all of this code that the previous session, Marcus and Linus, if I remember correctly. So yep, just copy their code and just paste it in here. So I'm gonna let you guys onto some secret. So this is actually one of the tools that I use. So if you can see, if I right click, I have this thing called Open with Live Server, and it's a very cool tool in the sense that when I open this, and whatever edits I do over here, right? So let's say if I change the home into like home page, and if I save it, here we see the changes over here, so I don't have to refresh every time. But if you guys don't know this, I can perhaps like share to you guys later. But for now, let's just have this HTML file going on. So are you guys doing this? If there's any problem, you guys can just write it down in chat. So no problems over that. And what I'm going to do is actually just create another folder. Let's just call it images. And it's a file in the same root folder and just call it styles.css. So we're going to try to make something like this out from this very ugly looking thing, right? So yeah, if you guys are ready, then we can move on straight into it. So mostly we're doing it's not going to use inline styling, not going to use embedded styling, but more of just external styling. So these are most of the like best practices that you can see outside in the industry. So what I'm going to do is actually create this link rel style sheet, and let's say hyperreference and go into styles.css. So what this does is actually just referring whatever styles.css has inside here. And I'm just going to bring it back to here and apply all the CSS that is within it. But for now, we don't actually see anything yet, right? So what I'm going to do is actually start off with something very simple. As you can see, the image is not quite loaded yet, right? So even though we have something over here, oh, it's actually we haven't imported the image. So sorry about that. Actually, you can go back to the Git repo again and just search for the image folder. right? And in here, you'll find the to-dos logo.png. Right, I'm going to download this file. Quite straightforward. If you guys are having any problem, please tell me so I can help you out. Right, now you can see the image is showing. Okay, let's go back to here and see. Actually, you can see all these elements, right? Like home link and benefits, pricing, about us, and demo is all listed around here. And the to-do app to the extreme, learn more is also included. So technically all the elements are here, but it's just the styling that's making a difference, right? So this is why CSS is powerful, because it makes the website more interactive and more visually appealing, and it displays your information in a more static way. Yeah, that's how I would put it. But yeah, for now, if you have this file, if you're not following with your Visual Studio Code, it's totally fine. You can just watch and see how I'm doing it, so you can get a rough idea on how you're about to start your CSS journey. So right here, very simply, I'm just gonna name it. Let's say, I think I should probably open something to make sure I'm not writing the wrong shit. Pull this over here. You guys don't see it. Okay. So right away, we can see something very different from the image, and as far as what we call like our current web page. So the first thing that's actually different, if you guys can notice, is actually the font family. So in CSS, right, we can always change our font, and sometimes we have this selector called or. It's a star sign. So previously you have been learning like P selector and as well as like some class selector, right? So what this does actually, star is a special kind of selector that selects everything from the website and just apply all the CSS that you have written in it. So let's just say if we want to change the font family and to maybe Arial. And so yeah, if we save that, you can see all the fonts actually changes at once. So we don't actually have to specify anything that we have to change. So this is one cool tool to actually apply all the HTML elements. And it's a font family, right? So I'm actually just going to search it up, some font that I actually prefer. So I'm going to import over here. Right. If you guys need it, I'm just going to copy and paste it on the chat, so you guys can use it. Just paste this in your styles.css at the very top. So I'm not going to use Arial because Arial looks like shit. Right. Instead, I'm going to use Roboto. It's very simple, kind of beginner-friendly family. Right. So save this, and you can see all the fonts have been changed. Right. So what's the next thing that I have to change? Actually, if you can see it, it's actually very detailed. You don't see it when you're actually a beginner. But actually, if we use this inspect element tool, right? So same thing. If we right click, inspect, and click onto this icon, and we just point anywhere, like, so maybe if I point at this, you can see like I'm actually referring to the body tag, right? So the body tag actually have this kind of default margin that you see, like the orange border that's surrounding it. So actually, I just want to remove this to make my things more, I don't need the margin. That's basically it. So I'm just going to say body tag because I'm referring to the whole body. And I'm just going to say body 0 pixels. Let's see. Let's just change this. So in the body tag, we can see actually two different kind of separate divisions. So the first division we have is here, top division, right? So this is signifying like the whole top. If you can read it, it's actually quite simple. So we have home, benefits, all the way down to demo. So it's actually signifying the whole top nav bar. Yep. So that's the whole division, the first division that is signifying. And then we have this bottom division. This is signifying the content. So we have this tree, right? The reason that they are so different is because of this H1 and as well as this A tag. Some of them have like kind of default stylings that that the browser applies. So that's why like the layout is slightly different. So what I'm going to do now, right, is actually just specify like the top layer into a class called navbar. So navbar signifies for navigation bar. And once we have created that, let's just go back to styles.css. And say navbar again. Right, so we're gonna apply some CSS to it to perhaps achieve the look of this, right? It's very simple, right? This top, very top bar, you can see it, right? Yeah, so we're gonna mimic the same thing, but instead just changing the CSS. So the HTML elements are already there, it's just the CSS that's different, right? What I'm gonna do, actually, let's think about it. Right, I'm gonna introduce you to something called display flex. Right, flex, it's a bit difficult to just explain it on here. So I'm just going to introduce you to some external resources that you can actually refer to when you actually lost when using Flex. So Flex, you can see there are a lot of different kinds of examples that I can use. So I'm just going to use W3 School, for example. So here you can see there's this display Flex, right? So if I remove this Flex, and you can see the things are labeled in divisions. So that's why they are having this block, and they are covering the whole width, even though you don't see it. So they are like layered in vertically. So what we do is actually when you display Flex, it's going to apply like a rule to it to just fill up horizontally, right? If you change it, so this is some new thing. It's called Flex Direction. We change it to row, run it, not row, but column. Right, so there's row and column. So if you change it to column, it's gonna display almost the same thing. So Flex has this kind of ability to change it like between horizontal and vertical and just extend the whole padding of the whole div. So it's a bit difficult to understand at first, but through like several attempts on understanding it and like practice with it, of course, and you get like a deeper understanding. And these are, of course, the sources that you can use to gain more like deeper insights about what Flex does. So yeah, without further ado, let's go back to our to-dos website. Again, if there's any question, please do not hesitate to ask. So as you can see, it's on the top. It's not what we want. We want it to be somewhat centered, right? So what we can do is actually align items. Give it a center. You can see it's centered, right? And why is it that the to-dos, the link, it's not aligned with the others? And that's because it's actually, you can see it. So I'm just gonna put it on full screen. So you have this A tag, and inside you have this image tag. And after that, you have this to-do. So actually to-do, it's not, oopsie, what happened though? Oh, my bad. Right, so this to-dos is actually not an individual tag. So if we remove the image, right, it will actually make sense. And you can see they're all labeled the same. But the thing is, the image is there, so they are labeled as one division on their own. So what we can do, right, is actually, since we don't actually have to center this, we can always just go into here, give it a class, and call the logo. Right? So this stands for the whole thing, the image and as well as the link. So let's go back in here, get the class. So right, just make it here, and we'll apply the CSS that we need. So the first thing, same thing, we'll just give it a flex, and same thing, right? Just put it align item center. So it will be the same as the others right now. So yeah, that's how powerful Flex can be, and it's very convenient to use instead of like using blocks or inline, because they can be sometimes very annoying, right? So this one, yep, it's something like that, right? So the next thing, actually, the to-dos, as you can see, it's a bit bigger than the others, right? So we want to change the font size, right? Straightforward, just change the font size. And the font size, let's make it, how big do I want to make it again? 32px, right? So it's about that big. And let's give it a font weight. So font weight, actually, you can give it bold. So that's how you apply the effect. And lastly, you can see all these links, right? Actually, links, they come with a default CSS properties that gives you this kind of underline, and as well as like the color, which is very fucking ugly. Right, so right now what we are gonna do is actually we're just gonna change the whole link and style it differently to how we wanna look. about something like this, right? So we're gonna make something new, be a new class called link. So which is very straightforward, right? So sometimes with names, right, it's better to create like names that is associated with the things, the style that you want to apply. So class equals link. Just gonna copy and paste this. So nothing too difficult. So yeah, it's applied to all of these. So now we're just gonna specify what kind of properties that we want to apply. So first thing first, with a tag with anchors, links in specification. So we want to change the text decoration to none. So this first step actually gives us the ability to change all the underlinings to none, right? Oh, actually we missed one out. So it's actually here. Actually, you can combine two classes in case if you don't know. So I can put on like two classes in one. I just have to specify it using a spacebar. So link and then logo. So right now I'm basically applying these two classes into this one HTML element. So as you can see, the underlines has been totally removed, right? And I'm just gonna copy a color that's associated with this. So yep, just change it. If you guys need the color, I'll just copy it and put it in here, right? And yeah, it's looking more and more like what we want. The rest is just kind of like tweak. So what we can do is actually, here I'm gonna introduce you to something. It's also one of the special things that comes with Flex, the display.flex. They allow you to specify a thing called justify content. And you can actually specify using space between, right? What this does, actually, it doesn't make sense yet. So let's just increase the width of it. And I'll try to explain what's going on over here. Right. Oopsie, I think that was a bit too much. Ooh, that was a bit too small. 200 is a bit too much. Huh? Oh, not space between. Sorry, I have to change to space evenly. Right. Looks something like this. So what this does, right, actually, when you're using display.flex, actually, it gives you this justify content where you can specify your items to be in this box, and it's, you see that it's applying like spaces in like by the sides and in the middle and as well as the other side. So this is what justify content gives you. And just now we were doing space between, right? So I can just demonstrate again by changing this value to space between. So space between. So this time it's just the same box again, but the spacing it's applied differently. So display flex gives you this kind of flexibility to change the space in between all these elements, right, that you're flexing with. So again, space around, it's somewhat similar to space evenly. But yeah, here we're just gonna go with space evenly. And make sure to include like the width, because the width is very important. If you don't have the width, right, it's actually not gonna apply anything. And because the box is just gonna be limited to these two elements. So we're gonna specify like what kind of width that we're using. So the box extends, right? And we achieve the effect that we want. So yep, don't worry if it's too difficult for now. I'm gonna leave the link to all this like completed files so you guys can do research on your own. You don't have to understand fully about this session yet. You can watch the replay. It's totally fine. Right. So next thing what we're gonna do, it's actually move this 5 links to the right side, and as well as just applying like this spacing that is even. So you hear it, right? So space evenly, right? So that's the thing. We can always reuse flex in this way to kind of achieve the effects that we want. So what we want to do is just group these 5 links together. So, right, simply copy these 5 links, this anchor text, and we're going to remove it. We're going to put it within a div, so within the division. So you're not going to see the effects straight away. But here, we're going to put in as our nav links. Right? So put in as nav links. Here, we're going to open a new class called nav link because we have specified over here. So yeah, what this nav link does, right? Actually, we're just going to put in display flags. No surprise. and as well as a justify content space evenly. Right. Not going to see anything because we have forgotten something. It's called the width. .c. Just apply the width. And you can see the spacing are pretty much spaced out evenly. It's really good. It's looking like what we want and what we want to achieve. So right now it's just about like moving it to the right side. So yeah, surely you can use something like, I don't know, maybe like margin left and then like put in 500. But sometimes if you put too much, right, and it's going to be like this and you don't really want that, right? So in this case, using margin left to lay out your things are not exactly the ideal way to do it because it's not very flexible. So what we can do is actually utilize flex again. So in this navbar, so remember navbar, actually we have created this class right above this two things. So the first thing is the logo, and as well as this 5 links. So basically it is surrounding this whole navbar and we are giving it a display flex. So we are treating these two items separately. So the 5 links and the logo, right? Something like that. So if we put in display flex and give it a line item center, and what we want to do is actually just give it justify content space between. Right. And you can see space is actually mobile responsive. So it is more flexible compared to how you're doing it with, say, margin. So yeah, that's one of the benefits that display flex can actually offer. So, right, what we're gonna do is actually change up the height of this thing. The height, so it looks more spaced out and looks better, right? In this way, there's more breathing space and looks more comfortable, right? What we're gonna do is actually, if you notice, zoom in a little bit, and you find this shadow right underneath that makes navbar stands out. So how to achieve this, right? It's actually, there's a property called box shadow. Copying it in here. Right, so that's box shadow. So I'm not gonna just skip over this, like you're supposed to know this. So I'm just gonna go in here and just try to make you grasp the whole idea of border like box shadow. So box shadow, actually the first two things is actually the X and Y. So if I remove this and just put it 0px, 0px, right, you can see it goes away. So what this first value does, right, is actually assigning the X. So if you give it more, the shadow will go to the right more. And if the Y you give it more, it's going to go down more. So if I put it 5px, 5px, you can see like the shadow goes to the right for 5px and goes down for 5 pixels. So that's the first two things that actually assigns the what do you call that? The box shadow, this value, and gives it this kind of layout. So it goes to the right for 5 pixels and down for 5 pixels. And the third value actually gives it a little more twist. It gives it a blur, like spread out. So you can see it's kind of spread out. So this is the third value that gives it. And the final value is just a color. Right. So yeah, that's box shadow. If you're interested, you can definitely use more about it and definitely go to W3 School to study more about box shadows so you can apply and look better with your website, right? So that's the general idea for the navigation bar. So I think that itself has a lot of things to learn. So it's probably time for you guys to ask questions. Do you guys have any questions? I think you guys are filled with questions, but you guys are just shy to ask. If not, I'll just proceed with the demonstration to hopefully let you guys learn something out of it. No? All right, then. No one's talking to me. Feel so lonely today. Okay, so right, we have done the top navbar. I'm not gonna do the demo, like the button thing yet, because it's a bit too much for today, especially for you guys for now. Right, so Right now, we're going to do something very simple. So we have done the top nav bar. Right now, we're going to do the content. So the center of this thing, the whole thing. Right. So give it a class name. Say content. And let's see. Let's go in here and just create the content class. Right. So we haven't applied any CSS yet. And let's just think about it. So what kind of things that we want to apply to this content? So, right, first thing is actually just to center it out, right? Just to center it out at the very middle. So it makes more sense and it mimics more to the original design. So what we're going to do, I think we can just give it a display flex like how we always do. Just give me a moment. Right, display flex. So you can see like the items are not aligned the way we want it to. So it looks like it's just lining up horizontally. So we want it to be vertically. So like how this is. So what we're going to do, we're going to change the flex direction into column. Right, so it goes back to normal. And another thing is align center. Align items and go to center. So that's it. So if you want me to demonstrate, actually, if you remove this tool, you're not going to see them aligned in the center. So this display flex and the flex direction is absolutely important in this case to allow the align items to center everything at the middle. So yep, that's one important point to take away. And right, so the next thing we want to start is actually this. You can call it title or whatever class name you want to give. So I'm just going to give a very simple class name called title in the H1 tag. Right. So go back to styles.css. Type in title. We're going to give it some stylings that perhaps makes it look somewhat like this. So first thing first, I already have my default color over here. So I'm not going to struggle. And I'm just going to copy this color if you need it. Right. So as you can see, the color has been changed, just like what we want. But it doesn't look as similar as how we want it to be yet. So the next thing that is different, of course, it's font size, right? Font size. And this, maybe we can give it like 48px, so it looks somewhat big, right? Yeah, it's almost kind of close. So the next thing, actually, you can see, even though they are using the same font, even though they're in the same kind of like text size, but the thing is, something is still different. And what is that? So the first thing, it's actually not most of you guys can actually recognize, but it's actually, this is bolded. Right, it's very small detail. And as well as, I'm going to introduce you to something very new. It's called letter spacing. So letter spacing meaning that it's just the spacing between like each letters. So TODOAPP. So these are all the letters, right? And we're just assigning a new letter spacing to it. So it looks pretty much the same now, except for actually the font also not very similar. It's all right. It's close enough. Right, what we're gonna do is the first title is already pretty much done with the styling. And what we want to do is actually the second one. So to the extreme, it's a paragraph on itself, right? Paragraph on itself. So we want to change it. So let's just give it a class name of subtitle. Go to styles.css. It's the same procedure. I'm pretty sure you can discover like what's happening already. So usually when you want to style something, you just give it a class name. You go to style CSS and you just create the class and you put in the CSS properties that you need, that you want to specify. So in this case, right, subtitle is significantly smaller than the title itself. So we want to give it a font size of, we say 30px, right? It's about the same. Oh, except the thing is, if you notice, the margin at the very bottom, actually it's too big compared to the image. So what we want to do for title, right? Just specify the margin bottom to be 0 pixels. But yeah, it looks almost the same. And I'm just going to copy this color or subtitle. If you need it, I'll just copy it for you guys. look somewhat the same. And lastly, just give it a font weight of bold. Right, it's looking pretty much the same now. Right, so for the title, actually, is for the margin bottom, I'm just going to give it 0px. But here, we want a margin top as well. So give it a margin top of, let's say, 150 pixels. So yeah, just put it in full screen. And it looks okay. So last thing is just this button, learn more button, right? So you can find it over at the very bottom here and give it a class name, same thing. See, it's a button, right? Straightforward. Here, create a class name of button. And as you can see, this one is an anchor. So A tag, they have this underlining that we don't need. I especially hate it. So text at decoration, put it none. Straightforward. And here, I'm going to introduce you to something called a background color. Actually, I think Bernard used that before, but actually background color, you don't actually have to just use it for your whole background of the, what do you call that, the website, but instead you can use it for small elements like this as well. So the background color, I'm just going to use the existing ones. So you can see it doesn't look as pleasing as how the image is doing, right? So don't worry, we'll go through it slowly. Right, here, what we're gonna do is actually change the text color to white color. Right, so what's different now? It's actually just the background, right? So the background has this kind of like curvy edges and stuff like that, but this one is just ugly, straight up ugly. And there's just color on the back. It doesn't really signify that this is a button. So what we can do is, right, with CSS, is actually give it a padding. So not a margin, not anything else, not a border, not anything else. It's just padding. So padding, it starts from the top. So imagine a clock. So a clock starts from the very top, turns to the right, and goes to the bottom, goes to the left, go back to the top again. So what padding does, all right? Actually, when you're specifying padding, it's the same thing. So you start from the top, and you go to the right. Okay, I'm going to put it 30px. And you go to the bottom, go to the left. So, right, looks somewhat similar right now. So in case if you didn't catch that, I'm going to repeat one more time. So it starts from the top, right, bottom, and left. So if we change this, you can also experiment with the values itself and just see where it changes. So I changed the third value, which is the bottom. So you can see the bottom one actually extends. So yeah, padding has this kind of special type, like, I don't know, syntax, right, that you have to follow to achieve this kind of effect. Also, if you want to be more like simplified, or yeah, to make your life easier, you can always use padding dash left and dash right. Essentially it achieves the same thing, but it's just like when you're writing in this way, it's more visually easing, I guess, because yeah, there's less thing to be processed. Right, so last thing, we want to apply this curvy edges, right, to this button. So what we want to do is actually new thing. It's called border radius. Right, border radius meaning that the radius of your border. I'm pretty much saying the same thing, but hopefully you get it. So yeah, it's the border of the radius. Right, we're just gonna give it 50 pixels, and you can immediately see the effect that it curves, right? So if we assign like smaller values, you can see the curves aren't exactly the same, right? So we want the curves to be exactly the same, and as well as like the curve is just perfectly round for each side. So we want to give it as high as possible in this case, right? So yeah, that's about it. You can change the font size if you want to make it look more similar. But yeah, that's generally how you can use CSS to design your website. Even though with very limited kind of HTML elements, you can make it look very good. As you can see, it looks like shit without the CSS. And with some touch, you can actually achieve things like this. And all these different kinds of properties, right? Actually, we don't expect you to understand or memorize everything on the first glance. Actually, you just need to go through more like practices, more experiences, perhaps like get a freelance job to enhance your own knowledge on web design and stuff, because it really is simple to start, right? But it's very difficult to master. So that's the thing. And maybe like one final job for you guys. Just wrap this up. Actually, you guys can take this challenge up and just try to make this button up at this demo, right? Try to achieve the same as this learn more button that we have done right down here, right? And then like maybe put a background image on your own. So yeah, but I already have my own background image over here. So I'm just gonna try and use it. Actually, I'm gonna use this, what we call SVG file. So I'm gonna put it in here. Right, so how do we use an image file? So in this case, I'm just gonna use it in this way, where I'm gonna call an image. And let's say the source, it's gonna be /image, and we find the wave. Right, found it. But the thing is, it's too large. And it's not long enough when you're full screen. So shit like this happen. What you can do is actually, again, CSS. So CSS gives you this kind of authority over your website to just kind of style it whatever you want. Like style it however you want. You can make it dark, you can make it funny, you can make it like comedic or anything. So this thing, I'm just gonna give it a class name of image. Go into your slides.css, and lastly, give it an image. So let's just, first thing, it's super easy to fix this. Just give it a width, 100%. There you go, right? And one thing, it's called position absolute. This one I'm not gonna explain anymore. This one you can just research on your own. So position absolute, and give the bottom of 0px. So it sticks at the bottom at all times. And there you have it. It looks pretty good. Right. Yeah. So that was it. Thank you guys for joining the session, especially. Hopefully everything wasn't too overwhelming for you guys, but we do accept a lot of questions, and we encourage all these conversations between our participants and ourselves, of course. If there's any questions, you guys don't have to be shy. Just come and ask us, because we do have a lot of experienced people in terms of like web development. So we are happy to help you. Happy to share all these knowledges. It's just, yeah, you have to start like approaching us lah. So these are just like very beginning starts that you can, first steps that you can take to learn more about web development. So yeah, we will always be here. We are Sunway Tech Club, right? Oh, actually, I've got some notes to talk about. So feedback. Have you posted the feedback form? Right. So the feedback form is actually in the chat already. Is it in the chat? Yeah, it's in the chat. So make sure you fill up the feedback form so we can like adjust our sessions to be more, what do you call it, catered to you guys. So you guys don't have to feel too stressed out about each session, or feel like it's too boring for each session. So we'll make it just right for you guys. And about the next session, right, we will learn more about JavaScript. So it will be the last session of this series. Basically, what we will learn, it's mostly on the functions of the website. So here, let's just do a very small recap. You have learned about HTML elements. So these are the things that HTML elements can do. It's just like the background, like the backbone of the whole website. And what CSS does is actually just style it and make it more prettier. But it doesn't give any function. So if I click onto any of these buttons, it doesn't actually do anything, right? So yeah, you'll be learning more about like adding functions to links, or even buttons, or even like more programming stuff related. So HTML, CSS is more just like scripting and stuff. And yeah, with that, we conclude. And thank you for your time for today. Happy that everyone joined. Except for that guy who opened his mic and just kind of yelled. I don't know. Yeah. So are you guys gonna live, or you gonna put me in this awkward spot? Yeah, feel free to open your mic if you want to talk with us. We're quite open. If not, I'll just stop presenting. Right. Thank you guys for joining.